Lights out. And now the movies, folks.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Misfit Boys Horror Madness. I am your humble host, Misfit Boy, and I've got an interesting one for you this week, that's for sure. This is one that's kind of been on my radar for a while, and I kind of put it off until, let's say about 2-3 months ago. I finally sat down and watched it, and it was interesting to say the least. It is another found footage film. In case you haven't figured it out by now, I am obsessed with found footage, especially the good ones. Obsessive stalking has been going on throughout the film and music industry for decades now. I mean, just think of all the people we have lost. We've lost John Lennon, who was shot directly outside of his apartment building and from an obsessed fan. Dimebag Darrell Abbott, shot on stage here in my home state of Ohio, right in Columbus, on the first song for Damageplan. And the list goes on. You have Dorothy Stratton. You have Selena, who was murdered by the leader of her fan club. And you just never know. Heck, I mean, even yours truly, Joe Schmo. I was once stalked when I was 22 by a coworker who was 20 years older than me for almost 2 weeks. I almost had to call the police. So it could literally happen to anyone. But that brings me to the film that we are going to discuss this week, which is called Be My Cat, a film for Anne. And this one was very, very unnerving, to say the least. We basically have an aspiring film director named Adrian who is obsessed with two things, cats and Anne Hathaway. After seeing her role in as Catwoman from, I think it was The Dark Knight Rises, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really watch many Batman films, so I apologize if I got the name wrong. But anyway, he is an aspiring film director, and he wants to get Anne Hathaway to star in his feature film. Now, at first, Adrian just kind of seems a little off. He's very weird. He's all constantly laughing. I mean, he's just, one of those type of guys. And he introduces everyone to his mom, who he lives with, and he first goes and picks up his first actress that he hires to do kind of a demo run of a film, I guess you could call it, so that he could send it to Anne and show her how important it would be for her to be in his film. He meets her at the taxi, gets her out of the cab, and when they start filming, he just starts berating her. He keeps telling her, look, you have to stay 1 meter away from me at all time. I'm going to try and get into your personal space. You can't run. I can do all the running I want, but you have to stay 1 meter away from me. She proceeds to tell him it's almost impossible. I can't do that if you can run and I can't. How am I going to do that? And he just keeps berating her, telling her, you're supposed to be an actress. Do your job. After a while, she starts to get really creeped out by Adrian. And she goes to it's so weird because she literally ends up calling the police on him for harassment. The police end up showing up. He ends up talking them out of not arresting him, saying, look, I'm making a movie. She's just a young actress. She's not following directions. That's all this is. It's just an understanding. So, somehow, Adrian manages to talk her into staying on to do the film. Why? I don't know. But now the scene is at night, and he tells her, there's this little catacomb here, a little corner that I'm going to be sitting right here filming you in. You're going to walk by. I'm going to put some water on this napkin, and you're going to pretend it's chloroform, which is going to render you unconscious. And we'll go from there. He looks at the camera and just starts laughing hysterically. He's like, she does not know that there is actually chloroform on this rag here, and I am going to put it on her mouth, and she will be sleeping. She will sleep. So she walks by, he sneaks up behind her, puts the chloroform over her face. She's unconscious. Next thing we know, she's waking up, tied to his bed, and he starts talking to Anne through the video camera. And this is all for you. If you do this film with me, you are going to be immortal. And it's at this point we start realizing that he is just going deeper into insanity. His obsession is just taking over him. And that's what makes this film so creepy. If any of you out there know anything about stalking or obsession or anything like that, you will understand. She wakes up and starts screaming. Now, he has already gone as far as to tell everybody else that lives in his apartment complex, hey, if you hear screaming coming from this room, don't worry, it's all good. It's just me. I'm making a horror film, so don't be alarmed. He puts a little bit more chloroform on the napkin and puts it back on her face, just enough to keep her awake, where he then takes her pair of jeans that he has removed all her clothing except for her bra and panties, and puts her in a cat suit and proceeds to choke her to death with the leg of her own pair of jeans. He then takes her downstairs into the basement of the apartment and hides her in a little cubby hole. And the whole time he's excited. And it's at this point I realize that you could actually do a drinking game for every time Adrian says, oh my God. As he's coming up the stairs, he's filming himself. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Look, Anne, look what I just did. You're not going to believe. You are going to be the greatest actress if you just do my film. Oh my God, oh my God. You play a drinking game every time he says, oh my God. You'll be drunk by the second act of the film. So he then goes and picks up two more actresses. Now, the first one does not have long hair like Anne Hathaway does. She has very short black hair. And he proceeds to tell her that she's fat. And she looks nothing like the pictures that she originally sent him. Well, apparently the pictures were from a few years back. So he basically said, you lied to me. Her response, well, this is me now. So what do we do? And he said, I paid for your ticket, I paid for your food, I paid for your lodging, all for you to just lie to me. Her response to that was, well, how about if we just sleep together and call it even? And I kid you not, he literally turns the camera around and says, Anne, please don't be jealous. I did not expect her to say something like that. He is taking this extremely seriously. Further down the road, we finally get to see our first real, true horror scene, where he takes the girl with the short hair and ties her up to an old bed that was down in the basement, and he puts a sheet up to where you, as the audience, can see nothing but her face and her bound hands. He then pulls out a large knife, and you could literally hear him beginning to cut the flesh off of her. Blood begins to splatter all over the curtain. It gets to the point where two of his neighbors show up, and they're realizing, hey, he's making a movie. This is pretty neat. And they're laughing. They end up turning around and leaving. Finally, the second actress that he hires comes downstairs, sees what he's doing, and she gets in full panic mode. Adrian, at this point, has now lost it. He is just so obsessed with what he's doing. He knows that he's going to get Anne. He's going to get her in his film. She's going to become infamous in Hollywood, and the film world will never be the same. Honestly, I really enjoyed this film. I know there are some people out there who said it was a little slow moving, which it was at first. It does take about 15 to 20 minutes to really start amping itself up. There was one scene in particular where I really realized that Adrian was starting to lose it. And that's when an ambulance goes flying by while he's filming the first actress. And he looks and simply, in the calmest manner, says, somebody died. Okay. And goes right back to what he was doing, like it was no big deal at all. He then comes upon a dead cat on the side of the road, which we find out that when he was younger, he had a pet cat, which he accidentally killed while playing with it, which, I don't know about you, but I find it kind of hard to believe myself. So, anyway, I'm not going to give away the end. It does have a pretty good ending to it. This is the first film in a trilogy of films coming out. I don't really have a whole lot that I can tell you in the background. I do know that the film was shot all by first take. There was no retakes. He wanted to get the atmosphere as realistic as possible, and I really think that he achieved that goal. And I don't know, it's just, when people talk about, hey, who are the most notorious psychos in film? Some people say The Shining. Some people say Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Some people say Silence of the Lambs. The list goes on. But when you see this guy, he plays the role of a psychopath just so well. Now, his voice may get annoying to some people, but after a while, I just tuned it out. It was pretty easy for me to do because I got so wound up at seeing this character descend into complete madness. So, Be My Cat, A Story for Anne. If I had to rate this one, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. And it really goes along the line at how obsessive and stalking can really be, and how terrible it is. And it's almost like you just can't get away from it. And that's exactly what Adrian does in this film. Kudos to him. I know it won like 5 awards, and it was nominated for about 14 on the independent scene. So if you haven't had a chance to see this one, I highly recommend you checking it out. Not a lot of blood and gore in it. Doesn't need it. Unnecessary. It's all right here. It's mental. It's a full mental blowout. Highly recommend it. Give it a try. That's it for this time around. Until next time, this is your humble host, Misfit Boy. And always remember, let's keep it horror. See ya.